All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this training in Mentimeter. It's really exciting to see so many different universities being present in this session. I see that the chat is also going a bit crazy. Please use the QR code here on the left side. Pick up your phone and scan the QR code, and then you will be able to also vote in this session. It's going to be quite interactive in the standard Mentimeter mode, so please feel free to do so. You also have the code at the very top of your screen, of this screen. So if you want to, you can also go to your web browser in your on your laptop or on your phone, type in menti.com and use this code here on the top. And please feel free to add your university here in the list. So it seems like we have Lund University coming out on top so far, but we're coming strong also with Coventry University and University of Manchester. So really exciting to see so many here, and all of you very much welcome. Let's get started. I believe there's going to be some more dropping in as we go along, but we're 2 minutes past, so I'm going to start this session today. So my name is Julia. I work as a customer success manager at Mentimeter, and I am since about November last year working full-time with our higher education customer, such as you. So I'm very happy to be here today. Please feel free to ask any questions that you may have during the session. You will always have the code here at the top of the screen. You can use your telephone, press open Q&A once you've signed in, and type in a question for me. I also have my colleague Ostra, who will be helping in the Livestorm chat. But if you want to ask us questions specifically for me, please put it in the Menti, and then I will be able to answer it to you continuously. It will pop up here at the bottom right side. I will be able to bring them up like this and answer them as we go along in the session. So again, very happy to be here, and let's get started. I would love to learn a little bit more about your experience with Mentimeter. If you are a very beginner or if you have used Mentimeter before, and in that case, in what way? All right, so it seems like most of you have presented with Mentimeter before, which is exciting to see. Some of you have only joined a Mentimeter presentation as a participant, and a few of you have your first ever Menti experience. So a good mix of participants, which I usually really like. Hopefully, all of you will get something exciting out of this session. It is going to be a little bit more introductory, but we also have some other things lined up for you. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now I know approximately the level of your Menti experience. So for today, I will start with talking about what Mentimeter is. Could be potentially good for those of you that have only maybe participated or never seen Mentimeter at all before, and for the others of you, a little bit of a refresher. I'm going to move into use cases and best practices, and through that, I'm going to show some of our newer features if you haven't seen them before. After that, I'm going to do a platform walkthrough to make sure that we go through how you can create questions in Mentimeter, how you set it all up, and how you get going in Mentimeter, and also show you some settings and so forth. And as I mentioned, there's going to be a Q&A throughout the session, and we're also going to have some knowledge sharing breaks, so to say. So please, if you haven't already, sign into this session by using the code up here. Go to menti.com, because you're going to have a chance to knowledge share with your fellow higher education colleagues and also learn from them in return. So that's something that we're going to do today as well. All right, so what is Mentimeter for those of you that are completely new to it? So Mentimeter is, in short, a platform that you can use to easily gather input from a group, which in this case would most of the times be students. Mentimeter, as you have seen, visualize it very clearly and beautifully in real time, which makes saving and sharing all of these insights very good for later. So you can always go back to the Menti, remember what did we talk about in the session, what were the students' thoughts and the thoughts around a certain topic, what were the brainstorms and discussions. You always have it saved in Mentimeter for you, which is very neat indeed. So this can support you in facilitating active learning, making sure that the students are leaned into your education and to the lecture or seminar or whatever session you have. And of course, you can leverage all of the insights that the student have to maximize the teaching potential. So when everyone gets a voice, you can spur more discussions and make the teaching experience even better. And of course, Mentimeter, as some of you may know, is by default anonymous. That means that you definitely equalize opportunity for students to participate. Even the more quiet voices are usually happy to share with Mentimeter, so it doesn't really matter if you're more extroverted or introverted. And as some of you may know already, according to quite a few studies, Generation Z is actually more introverted, or they say that themselves are a bit more introverted than the other generations before them. So they are usually very happy to share with Mentimeter. So as we have seen working with quite a few universities, I mean, many of you are in here today, we have seen that this enables you as an educator to improve learning outcomes and to increase student satisfaction, making sure that they also can participate in their own education and give opinions in a safe way. We have also conducted a neuroscientific research with a partner, which actually show that audiences in active presentations have a 9% higher cognitive load, which can also be said as learning rate. They have a 15% higher attention, a 13% higher engagement, and they also show 20% lower boredom in the presentation. I've added the source here. You're all very educated people, so I know that sources are very important. Many of you are probably even researchers. And in the source, you can find the method that has been used, the number of participants, and all of those things that you definitely want to learn more about when you're interested in statistics and so forth. So please feel free to click on this link and have a further look if you are interested in that. I would like to know from your perspective, what impact have you seen when using Mentimeter in your work? So a little bit of a sharing break where you are absolutely free to share with your industry peers and to learn from their answers in return. And I'm going to add the QR code here if anyone joined late and wonders, how can I join in here and start voting and sharing my insights? And while you are adding answers, I'm going to have a look at the question. Menti is by default anonymous. How do we deal with offensive comments? We had that case last semester with first-year students. Couldn't trace them. Yes, that is a bit of the backside of Mentimeter. So what we do have, and I can show you this during the walkthrough, we have profanity filters that can sort out at least some of the offensive comments. Something that you can also always do is, for here, for example, we have an open-ended question type that allows the students, or you as participants really, to type in whatever you want. So if you press H on your keyboard, oh sorry, C on your keyboard, you close the voting. Sorry for anyone who was typing, I promise I will open it very soon. And then you'll actually see that you have a little tin that you can click in order to remove any offensive input as well. So you can do that quite fast. You can also do it in the word cloud. But I'll have Oscar, my colleague, also share a little bit on how that can be done in the chat too. I hope that answered the question. I'm going to show you a bit of a new feature that we have, if you haven't seen it before. It's basically AI helping to group the answers in open-ended. So as you can see here, I have 124 of you, 25 now, having answered this question. So if I scroll down, I can definitely have a look and like, wow, there's a lot of things about engagement here, but it's a lot of input. So it's hard for me to get an idea about what does this mean? Like, what are the patterns and trends here? So now I'm going to use AI to group all of these responses together so that I get a better idea of what have you as a group been saying. So when I do this, it can take a little bit of time sometimes. We have quite a few answers. And now AI is actually grouping all of the different open-ended inputs into different sections so that I can more easily have possibility of seeing what the trends and patterns are. So again, quite a new feature, and I hope that some of you have had a chance to try it out. All right, so what impact have you seen when using Mentimeter in your work? You have seen engagement, you've seen fun, participation, discussion, interaction, feedback, anonymity, motivations, and learning. New responses that are coming in are usually uncategorized, so that's why it says new responses here. So you have to redo the exercise in order to group them as well. But sounds like that has been the biggest impact for you. A very nice and neat way for me also to understand what seems to be the patterns, and for you also that are in the session to learn, okay, this is what other universities have seen as a impact factor when using Mentimeter in their work. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to move into use cases and some best practices. And one way that you can use Mentimeter that I believe that many of you are quite acquainted to, especially those of you that have used Mentimeter before, is a way to capture students' attention. Having fun check-ins, icebreakers, and anything like that, that instantly capture the students' attention and makes them really leaned into the lecture or seminar, whichever session you are having. And this is our pin-on image, which is one of my favorite question types personally. A bit of a silly question, again, icebreakers, always fun to hear. You can ask, for example, ideal toast color and bring him up a picture of toast. I definitely promise you that this will make people wake up a little bit. It's always fun to talk about some of these things. And of course, you can always use this question as well for educational purposes. So let's say you are in an economics class, you can ask them to pin certain parts of a graph, for example, or anything like that. But you can also use it for more silly things. Another very popular example is bringing up a world map and asking your students where in the world they are from. That's also a really nice example. And while you're still pinning this, it seems like some of you have very unhealthy habits, but you know, to each their own. Bottom right corner here seems like it's very burnt. I'm going to answer a question. Okay, yes, equalize, I should say. I'd like to know more about accessibility when using Mentimeter for presentation. Example, subtitles available now in PowerPoint. A very good question. And we have quite an extensive accessibility team here at Mentimeter working with accessibility specifically. In the walkthrough, I will show you quite a new feature that we launched quite recently, which is an accessibility checker to make sure that a Mentimeter is as accessible as possible when you use it. We also it's possible to use us with screen readers and so forth. So there's always more to come in this area from Mentimeter. Again, we have a whole team around this. So stay tuned and I'll show you more on the accessibility checker once I get to the walkthrough part of this session. What did you use to use the AI to group? Is there a key shortcut? Yes, so as soon as you get 10 or more answers to your open-ended, then you are able to press space. It actually said that in the very bottom of the question to group the different answers. You will have to have enabled this. So by default, the AI feature is turned off for our enterprise users, which most of you are. So we're probably already in conversations with your stakeholders that are responsible for Mentimeter around enabling this AI. But if not, please feel free to reach out to the owners and admins of your Mentimeter subscription and ask them or inquire about them enabling this. So those are two of the things you need to do. All right, seems to be a great bunch of answers here, but we're somewhere in the middle, which seems quite healthy, and still have a few of you at the very bottom. All right. Something that we always talk quite passionately about is using Mentimeter to create a dialogue and using Mentimeter for formative assessment. And this is something that we see being used very successfully across many different universities, and I've seen it personally. This is also something that we see with our business customers, because they also have learning and development internally for training their employees. So we have experience from both those ends with formative assessments specifically. And I would love to know if you have had any successful examples from using Mentimeter for formative assessments. So another little knowledge sharing break. And while you answer, I am going to answer your question. Is there a best practice when utilizing Menti questions at different times during a lecture with other material on projector of most of the time? Timing of answering, embedding in Google presentation. Let me see that I get this right. Is there a best practice when? Right. So I would probably try and integrate as much as possible of the questions that you, or the Mentimeter with PowerPoint, for example. We do have a beta version of embedding Google as of now, but it's only showing actually if you are a beta presenter, or beta user basically. I can share later how you can do that. But as much as embedding as you can do, that of course helps a lot. But I'm not sure if I maybe misunderstood the question. So if you feel like it's not answered, please feel free to resubmit it and I'll try to answer it in a better way. Not entirely sure that I got the question quite accurately. Well, I guess this was an option that I didn't think about. Well, no. Well, good, because then you're going to learn a lot more about this. Let's group it and see what we get. Sorting, sorting, sorting. AI at hard work. All right, so it seems like quiz has been a good way to use Mentimeter for formative assessment and feedback capture. I can actually go in here and read more. For example, our academics use it for capturing feedback after each teaching lecture session about the outcome of the session. So it's more diagnostic rather than formative assessment. Really good input. Thank you so much for that. And if people have maybe only been participants and so forth before. Oh, now I definitely pressed the wrong button. Let's go back here. Here we go. Oh, I need to resort. Here we go. Perfect. We've seen it being used for knowledge checked, lecture recap, mental health stigma, anatomy and psychology is also one. Physiology, excuse me. English is not my first language, as some of you probably noticed. And then we have quite a few not yet, no, and so forth. So great. Hopefully you're going to learn something new here. And after this session, you'll get this presentation so that you can go in and see what your colleagues were answering, so that you can also learn as you go along and after this session. Everything is saved in Mentimeter, as I mentioned before, and that's the beauty, right? You can always go back and see what your colleagues were answering before. Thanks for everyone for sharing. This is a very common question type to use for formative assessment. And in case someone doesn't know what formative assessment is, it's basically informal ways of testing and assessing your students in between formal exams, for example. So usually leaning in and asking the students to rate their own confidence in an area, and their own knowledge in a specific area and so forth. So that is formative assessment, very shortly put. Very nice too, because as you can see, you easily get an understanding what the level are of the students. So for example, adapting curriculum to AI seems to be a low confidence level. So if I was teaching in this topic, for example, I would think that perhaps I should spend a little bit more time working with this topic specifically and so forth. This is the ranking question type. So it does exactly that. It allows you to rank different questions based on the input that you're adding. Another way, of course, to use Mentimeter is to encourage question to clarify understanding with the Q&A feature and function. So you can choose to use these settings either on all slides like I have today, or specifically on the Q&A slide. And I would definitely encourage your students to upvote each other's questions. So I'm going to encourage you to upvote each other's questions as well. So as you can see, I have 6 questions that are waiting for me right now. If you're going to open Q&A on your phone when you are signed in, you can see all of the questions that have been asked by your colleagues, and you can actually upvote them. So the one question that has the most upvotes will be the first one that I get here as a presenter. So hopefully that means that it's the most relevant question for all of you, which is also, of course, really great when you are working with students and perhaps many different questions come up that many others were thinking about. Maybe don't dare to ask them out loud, but you can really tell that that's something that many are thinking about because they upvote each other's questions. So please feel free to do that now while I'll move to the next slide and answer some questions. How do you integrate Mentimeter into PowerPoint presentation? I have a slide and specific part of this towards the walkthrough, where I will have an article on exactly how you integrate Mentimeter into PowerPoint. But there are a few ways. I'll also ask my colleague Ostra to add that article to the live storm chat, so you can get it there as well. But it's going to be part of this session as well, so we will come to that. How did you make the toast example question? I just pulled the image from the internet and I uploaded that image to Mentimeter, and that was it. So it's called pin on image, that question type. And the way that the image looked like was just something I pulled from the internet, really. So you can upload whatever you want there, and as long as you start presenting, then your students or your participants in general will be able to start voting. How to apply a personal background? Very good question, and I will get through this. I will go through this in the walkthrough that I have lined up later. Show you exactly how you can add pictures and add backgrounds and so forth. Will you be going from the beginning with how to start up to set up a Mentimeter? I do not know how to use it at all. Yes, I will. I've actually lined that up for the last part so that you get some inspiration and use cases first, but we will go through exactly how to do that. So don't fret. Does AI work in different languages too? Yes, it does. It's actually based on OpenAI, ChatGPT, you may have heard, or OpenAI in general. So yes, it works in different languages too. What is the maximum number of students that can register on Mentimeter? I deliver career sessions. The students can't get past the first slide. I see. If the students cannot get past the first slide, it may be that you have toggled the survey mode of Mentimeter. I'm going to show later what this looks like. But that is potentially the reason. There is no maximum number of students that can vote on Mentimeter. There's no need for a license in order to vote. So basically, what you're doing in this session, you don't need any license or anything like that. We do have certain limits on certain question types, such as the quiz. We say that after 3,000 participants, you may see a bit of a lag in the quiz and so forth, but there's not really any limitation on the voting side. And furthermore, if you plan on having a really, really large session, like more than 3,000, you can always reach out to us and we can try and optimize things on our end to make sure that that works. But you also get a warning, so to say, on the questions that have some kind of limitation, or if it's not a limitation, it's maybe more of a recommendation to make sure that the question type shows up in a nice way. One more question and then I'll continue. Can I show a video in a Mentimeter quiz? Unfortunately, not as of now, but perhaps in the future. Okay, I have one more question, so I'll take that and then I'll move on. Can I use Menti to do quick pulse surveys to gain feedback on how useful students and colleagues have found the session at the end before everyone leaves? Yes, this is a really, really great way of using Mentimeter. And I have a question type, I'm quite sure at least, that I have a question type lined up for you that's perfect for pulse surveys. So we'll get to that. It's basically a scales question type. So we'll get to that soon. And that's one that I would definitely recommend using. All right, now I'll move forward. So as you have probably seen, we do have reactions that you can use for engagement and instant feedback, even on the slides that do not have much of an interactive part. So here, for example, I have nothing interactive in the actual slide. I just have text and a picture. Perhaps I want to talk about some content, but I mean, it's really nice for me, especially since all of you are online. I can't really see many of you. And then it's really nice because I can still feel that you're there. I reduces some radio silence because you're all giving me cats or upvotes, or I mean, no one has given me the thumbs down. So thank you for that. And these are all of the reactions that we have available that are here at the bottom side. We also have a chat feature. I've turned it off just for now because it can be a little bit confusing sometimes with the Q&A and the chat, but sometimes the chat is really nice as well. So the chat is usually you can send short little instances of messages. It stays up for a few seconds and then it gets removed. It can also be nice to reduce some radio silence and so forth. Oh, I got 1 thumbs down. Oh, but all of you others have given me thumbs up and hearts, so I appreciate that. Of course, there is a very quite known example of how to use Mentimeter is to test knowledge, either through a multiple choice or through a quiz. So we're going to have a little quiz time, and I'm going to see if you've been listening to me. So I'm going to make sure that we get some increased knowledge retention by testing your skills. It's a really nice way to facilitate active learning by gamification. And of course, it could be a perfect exit ticket to summarize class. So I will go ahead with that. Some things that I've also seen that's been used quite successfully is to have quiz questions in between and all through your class. So in between content slides and so forth, because most people are excited about winning if there's some kind of leaderboard and so forth. So that really makes the students lean in and stay alert. So that's something I've seen been used successfully as well. All right, let's see. We should be, it seems like we are about 300 people in the live storm. So I am going to bring up the code once again and allow you to scan this little QR code here at the end and participate in the quiz. I'm going to give you a few more seconds and then we're going to go. All right, let's go. We have 2 questions, and this is the first one. And the faster you answer, the more points you get. What use cases are applicable for Mentimeter? You guys are fast. There's a lot of things coming in here. All right, time is running out. So you better be quick in answering. Here we go. Great work. You can use Mentimeter for formative assessments. You can use it for encouraging questions, testing knowledge, and capturing students' attention. I mean, technically, I guess you could use Mentimeter for graded exams, but I wouldn't say that's the best use case to use Mentimeter. So great work. All of you are correct. All right, last question, and then we'll have a winner. How much lower boredom was experienced by using Mentimeter according to our neuroscientific research? Let's see if you listened to me previously. All right, time is running out. Here we go. Nice. Most of you were listening and were correct. It was 20% lower according to the study. All right, let's see who won in the end. And we have quite a few. Yes, it took a little time because we have quite a few participants here. Wow, it's a very, very, very tight run, but it seems like Dragonite is the winner. Well done, Dragonite. Applause, applause. You did it well. All right, I'm going to do the platform walkthrough where I show you how to create a presentation, how to set up a question, how you can co-create and collaborate on presentations with colleagues. I will show you how you get your students to join in on voting, and I will also show you how you can view results of a presentation. So, and after that, I will take some questions. If I press escape, I get into this view. Here to the left, I have all of my slides. Here in the middle, I have the presentation area, which is what you will see when I start presenting. And here to the right, I have all of the content that I'm adding to the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the left side of the screen. And at the upper left side here, I have a blue button that says New Slide. When I press this one, I am able to choose whatever interactive slide I want to use. So we have quite a few of them, but I'm going to go ahead with our most popular ones, which is the multiple choice question type. And as you can see, you instantly get the insights here on the screen, and I can just type in my question. For example, what day is it today? And as you can see, it's very fast and easy to set this up as you go. And I'm just going to say Monday, Friday. Oh, always a bit awkward to write when people are listening to you. And Wednesday. Here we go. And as you can see, everything populates instantly. And I can even choose if I want one action to be correct or not by ticking this little part here. And of course, it's Wednesday today, so I'm going to be taking that one. If I move to the upper right side, I can move down to the design button right here. If I press this one, I can customize this specific slide. For example, I may want the data to show up as a donut or a pie chart or even little dots. So I have some few different options here that I can do. If I go back to content, because I realized I forgot to add an image. This is where you can add an image. That was a question that one of you had. If I press here, I can either upload an image from my computer, I can add an image from my library, or I can use Giphies. So all of these are copyright free and you are free to use them as you wish. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Wednesday and see whatever I get. I get a little calendar here. So I'm gonna take one of those. I just press it and I go to save. And then it pops up right here on the side. So now if I move back to the design little button here that was where I was right before, under the layouts, I have the possibility of either putting this as a background, for example. That was the question from one of you. I can show the whole image on the left side. I can move it to the right side or make it like this and make it larger and smaller. So I have a few layout options available here. I can make the text size smaller or larger right here as well. And I can choose the different visualization colors. That's the colors that are going to pop up once you start answering my question. And I have some more settings that I can do here, such as background color and so forth. And this will all affect this specific slide that I'm working on. If you want to, you can also create themes, which will basically mean that every new slide that you create will apply the same rules to it. So you have a few themes here that you can work with, choose, or you can just set it up yourself. Under the interactivity button, that is on the right side here at the upper right side, you can choose whatever interactive features or reactions you want to have on this slide. So for example, do I want to have the heart, the thumbs up, and maybe the cat or Batman? That's a very largely discussed topic. If it's a Batman or a cat, you choose. You have some more different options here as well. I talked a little bit about profanities before as well. So you do find our profanity filter by moving up to the cogwheel here on the upper left side. Before it was actually on the right side, we moved it around a little bit. So now it's here on the upper left side, the cogwheel that says settings. Here is also where I decide if I want the Mentimeter presentation to be set for a live setting, a live participation, such as what you are in now with me. That basically means that you follow along and interact with my presentation as I move forward. So you're always going to be at the same slide that I am on or the slide that I tell you to be on, basically. You can also use Mentimeter for survey purposes. So that means that the participants can go through the whole Mentimeter presentation in their own pace and at any time. And all question types can be used in Mentimeter for survey purposes, except for the quiz. So if you do have a quiz, as you see here, you need to remove that before being able to toggle the survey mode. But asynchronous teaching, I've seen quite a few examples of how you can use that in a survey mode as well. Maybe a feature that's not maybe as known as other features. So feel free to try it out. Under language preferences, you can toggle the profanity filter that I mentioned earlier. So here we have quite a few languages, and if you toggle one of them on, that means that we have a database of known profanities, and if someone types that in, it's going to show up as a bunch of symbols rather than the actual profanity. It's not perfect, of course. The students can type anything, misspell a profanity, and it is going to show up, but it's at least something. Hopefully, it can help a little bit. I'm actually going to trust you guys, and I'm not going to have the profanity filter on now, so you better behave. Finally, I do want to show you the accessibility checker that I mentioned earlier. It's also found under the cogwheel. And when I press this, what I get is an accessibility score. And I actually have not done a great job, I see now, because I don't have any alt text for any of my images. So that means that they're not going to be able to use, for example, with screen readers. So I've not gotten a very good score here. Seems like I'm all set when it comes to text contracts, but it should be, there are also some other accessibility concerns here, such as I have some visualizations that have low contrast. And I also have used a pin it slide, which may not be great for participants with visual impairment. So this is a really great way to just check the accessibility level of your Menti presentation. So feel free to try this one out and give us your feedback. Finally, before I move forward and answer some of your questions as well, I'm going to move up to the share button here on the upper right side, just to the left of the present button. When I press this one, I first get to the tab that talks about the participants. So that will be the students joining in on your presentation. You can send them a link if you want to, and then they can click this link and they get straight to the voting page. Great for when you, for example, use Mentimeter for surveys. This one never expires, so you can send it out and anyone can click on it for years to come. Maybe that's not a great example, but it's always going to be available. So again, very nice when you do surveys, for example. You also have the QR code that many of you probably joined with today. You can download it here. And the access code, the menti.com, and typing in the access code you have here as well. It expires after a certain amount of time. Does not mean that your presentation disappears. It just means that you will get a new code generated for your presentation. So again, if you're using Mentimeter for survey purposes or anything that you want the presentation to be accessible for longer, then I recommend not using the code specifically. Under the editors tab, you can invite your colleagues. So any colleagues that are part of your subscription will pop up when you type in their name here, and you can invite them and start collaborating with them. Really neat if you want to co-create together on a presentation. So you can have a colleague editing one slide, and then you edit another slide, and so forth. Finally, here under results, we have a view results page where you can actually see like a summary of all of the results from your presentation. We are going to build even more on this during the year, so stay tuned. We also have the link to results, which basically allows you to send the link to, for example, your students. They can go through the whole presentation and see all of the answers that have been answered. And you can also send this link to your colleagues if they want a copy of your presentation to their own account. So not collaborating, but more sending copies of presentations to each other. And I'm going to show you what the view results. Okay, I'm sharing this type specifically. I will not show this right now, but feel free to explore that later on. I am a little bit scared that I will get lost in technical things if I start switching tabs and so forth. So I will not do that today. I hope that's all right. All right, let's see if you know what day it is today. Lovely. I promised you a guide on Mentimeter and PowerPoint. We have a complete guide here. how you can use PowerPoint and add Mentimeter, and how you can use Mentimeter and add PowerPoint. So adding Mentimeter into PowerPoint or adding PowerPoint into Mentimeter software. So here is a complete guide with videos and so forth on how you can go ahead and integrate them with each other. We have some more resources here, how you can integrate Mentimeter and PowerPoint, our self-paced free courses, Mentimeter Academy, any ready-to-use templates and so forth, and video resources and all of that we have here as well. But I do have quite a few questions, so I am going to walk through them now. How do you set up a whiteboard or notice board in Menti, or can you do this? We need to replace using Padlet and have been advised to use Menti instead. Very good question. I would probably recommend to use the open-ended question type and put Menti as a survey and send out the link that I just showed you, because that means that anyone can access the question at any time and put in whatever they want, and it's going to show up as a open-ended question in Mentimeter, and you can always go in to Mentimeter and see whatever anyone has submitted. I hope that's what you're looking for, but if something is still unclear, please feel free to resubmit your question. But from what I understand, I think that could be a good way to use it. Can I leave a Menti quiz open for a certain period of time so that each student can take the quiz individually? Well, very good question. For now, you are not able to use Mentimeter in the survey mode, which means that you'll have to do it in real time with all of the students at the same time. We are looking into if we could do that asynchronously, but it's not something that's currently on the plan. So unfortunately, that's not possible. What you can do in the live session is that you can toggle how much time you want to give the students. That is part of the content part, kind of like when I showed you in the multiple choice question that I just made. There you can scroll down and you can decide how much time you want to give all of the students when they answer the question. Hope that answered it. Can I create a Mentimeter and all our module team can use it at the same time in different classrooms? Very good question. Yes, what you can do is that you can actually share templates with each other inside of Mentimeter. I'll have my colleague Ostra to share that link in the live storm chat, because it's a very good. You also have actually the link on your phone right now to our articles page, and then you can kind of you can search on templates if you want to do that as well. So that would mean that you can allow everyone that is on your workspace that has your license to access and create copies of that presentation to their own accounts. Or you can collaborate. It depends on what your purpose is. It sounds like if everyone wants to use it, then it may be good that you have your own copies. But if you want to create on the same presentation deck, then I would probably go with the collaboration that I just showed you in the walkthrough. But if you all have different copies, then you can all present them at the same time in different classrooms. But if you collaborate, like I showed you just recently, then only one person can present at the same time in the same presentation. I hope that answered it. Quite a long answer to the question. If we want to reuse the same Mentimeter slides for next year's student cohort, will the new code mean we get a new set of results and a previous result will not be shown or overlap? No, the code has nothing to do with the input that you get in the Mentimeter or the presentation at all. It's only about how you get the students to join in and vote. So, for example, if you were sitting here in my session today and I would be giving you an old code, then you will be on your phone and like there's no Mentimeter that has this code. But my presentation that I have right here in front of me will still be there and all of the results. So that's the only thing you need to think about the code. If you have a live session, the code is always going to be updated and you don't need to worry about it. But if you do want to reuse presentations, Mentimeter presentations, I'd highly suggest and encourage you to do that. It's a very nice way to gather a lot of data and show over time how things may have changed. And I'll show you how to do that right now. So now that I am again in the edit mode, I have this blue box here. This blue box will pop up as soon as I have any results on my presentation. And I can manage result by pressing this blue button. And I can either reset the results for an entire presentation or for this specific slide. So if I want to reuse presentations, let's say over a course, for example, I may have some feedback or question type that I want to have and reuse and see how it changes over time, then I highly recommend that you use this feature, because then you'll be able to track that history over time. Oops, wrong button. Here we go. All right. Can you get data output in Excel format from all questions posted in a Menti session? Yes, you can find the Excel export when you go to the results page. The one that there was a little tab popped up that I didn't want to dare reshare and so forth. So if you go to the share button and then go to results, you'll find the view result there, and there you can export the Excel document, and all question types will have a data output in Excel. Can students change their icon? No, the icon in the quiz is assigned to you automatically, and it's not possible to change it. You just get it. Can you only embed 5 Menti slides in PowerPoint? There is a certain limit to how many you can embed because of the memory limit that Microsoft allows for their PowerPoints. So I believe 3 to 5 is what is possible before the memory runs out in Microsoft. So that's our guidelines. Otherwise, you may see that the software may be a bit slower. So that is a bit of a limitation of the PowerPoint plugin, unfortunately. What is the meaning of the cat in the response icons? There's actually no really meaning. Our product team really likes cats, so they created that response as a little bit of a conversation starter, and they like it. So that's the reason. How to incorporate Mentimeter in an existing PowerPoint presentation. So I would navigate you to the guide that I sent. It doesn't really matter if it's an existing or a new PowerPoint presentation. You can use in the same way, either way. I'm going to continue to answer the questions, but I'm going to move to this as well, because I would love to hear what you thought about today's webinar, what you learned, if you think the content was valuable, if you were able to ask questions and so forth. And then I have one more knowledge sharing question left for you as well. But please feel free to answer this one while I answer some of the questions. The responses are hidden for now, so feel free to be as honest as you want. It's not going to create an awkward situation. So please feel free to give that while I continue to answer some questions. I want to use Mentimeter in an event with guest speakers. Can you use it to ask questions without a presentation? Or does there need to be a PowerPoint? Let me see if I understand this correctly. I want to use guest speakers. Can you use it as a presentation, or does there need to be a PowerPoint? Well, I have not used PowerPoint in this presentation today, so you definitely can. You can just set up a new Mentimeter presentation and go ahead and add whatever questions you want to have. You don't have to have a PowerPoint. And as you have seen, I have also presented a bit content in this session today. So if you want to add content, you can do that in Mentimeter as well. If I did not answer this correctly, then please feel free to resubmit it and I'll clarify. Will you email us with a video recording for the session, please? Ostra, I believe we are recording this session, right? And everyone will get access to it.
Yes, that is correct. So as soon as we wrap up the session, everyone will get the recording as well as the slide deck that Julia has used, and also the entire live stream chat with all of the questions and answers and the links that have been shared there.
Perfect. Thank you, Ostra. That's the answer to this question then. Sometimes when I have many slides and want students to answer the question I'm presenting, they tell me they see another question and are able to answer the other questions in the set.
I think that I answered this in the live stream chat. Essentially, we arrived that it might be an issue with either the pacing setting, or it might be that, so either it's in survey mode or presenter mode, or audience pace or presenter pace, or it might be that there is a slight bug with the pacing of the session. So the students should get a prompt that allows them to click and go to the slide that the presenter is presenting. So yeah.
Exactly, and it could be that they haven't seen the prompt popping down. So basically, once, let's say you're in an open-ended question and you're typing an answer, and then I move forward in my presentation and I want you to go to that slide. Well, it's a bit of a pity if you don't have the time to type your question and finish it. So basically what you can do is you can finish your question, submit it, and then there's going to be a little prompt that pops down. And once you are finished, then you can move to the next question. So I guess there is definitely some kind of bug if that prompt doesn't pop down, but it could also be that sometimes the students may not see it or be a bit confused. But that's the reason why that is there. So I hope that answered it as well. Thanks, Ostra. Does the QR code correspond to the access code or the permanent link? Oh, very good question. I'm sorry I didn't say that. The QR code never expires either. Always valid. Do typed answers need to match students' typed responses precisely to be ticked correct within a word answer quiz competition? Ah, right. So yeah, if you have typed answered in the quiz, I actually didn't have that example in this session specifically, but let's say someone spelled something wrong or so forth, then you can actually hover over their wrong answer and tick it to be correct. So you can kind of choose a little bit on the typed answers in the quiz. If you see that it's the correct answer, but maybe someone slipped a little bit on their keyboard or something like that, then you can actually tick it to be correct. So I hope that was what you're asking for, and the answer in that case doesn't need to match exactly. You can take it to yourself. Will there be an option to share folders with full access to all presentations with collaborators in the future? Let's see, I think we already have this today, or am I wrong? Will there be an option to share folders with full access to all presentations with collaborators in the future? We actually have this right now. So there is a way through either templates, or we have something called shared presentations, where everyone that is in the same license pool as you are. So if you are campus-wide and you have unlimited amount of licenses, you can actually share presentations with everyone, and then everyone can go in and collaborate on them. So potentially we can have Ostra help a little bit with sending an article to that, but it should be possible already now if I get you correctly. Can I make a Mentimeter well in advance of the live session? For example, if I'm prepping lectures for the semester, can I create the Menti and it will stay fresh until use? Yes, I obviously prepared this session beforehand, and as long as you use it in a live session, such as what I'm doing now, even if I created this 2 weeks ago, this code is automatically going to be updated all the time. So it's always fresh if you use it in a live session. So you never have to worry about that. The code here at the top will always be relevant. The only way you may have to think about it is if you do a survey and you send it out and you want students to be able to access it for maybe 2 weeks. That's the only time you need to think about that. Otherwise, it always will stay fresh, so to say. How do we track survey data over time? Good question. Let me show you. So actually, I can do like this. I will show you through this question. So I'm actually going to reset the results on this question, this slide specifically. I hope everyone is all right with that. It's not the most insightful slide specifically, maybe. And then I'm going to ask you guys to type something in again. Oops, let me go with the right button here again. And now, seeing that I actually have a new session that you're answering now. If I move over to the left side of the screen here, I have a different little bar that shows up here. So what I can do here is that I can show history. This is the thing at the very top. This is a bit more advanced, but if I show here, press there, I can see the current session that I have now. And here, I have the session that was previously. So you can actually toggle in between the answers that I had on this question previously and now. And let me see, You can even show trends over time. So now that I've toggled the trends, which is at the very bottom here, I can actually see that in the first session, 25 of you thought that it was Wednesday. And today, in this one that I just asked you about, 48 of you think that it's Wednesday today. So over time, you even get a graph if you have more sessions. So it's a really, really nice way to track insights from the students over time. Again, also super applicable for formative assessments, asking students to give feedback on their own learning or feedback to you as an educator, such as what I did now. Again, you can hide it. You don't have to show it to the students in real time. So definitely a really nice feature that I recommend that you look into if you're curious. All right, I will ask, we have 5 more minutes, so I will continue to answer questions. And yes, here we go. And we've answered that one. Is it possible to have an option other and then have a textbook saying, please specify? Let me see is it possible to have an option other and then have a textbook saying, please specify? I'm not entirely sure that I understand the question. Would you mind please resubmitting it if you don't mind? And I'll see if I understand it better. Sorry about that. Do you find that certain platforms are better for Menti in, for example, Zoom versus Teams? I'm going to be very honest. Before, the Zoom one was quite a lot better than the Teams one because Microsoft was a bit limiting in the way that they allowed their integrations to work. It has been updated now, and I believe it's equally good now. So now I think both Zoom and Teams are equally good. Before, I don't think that was the case, but I do think that's the case now. Can you give me some advice about how to show longer sentences and contents on Mentimeter? Also, how to show formulas, tables earlier and more clearly? Yes, I believe all question has a limit of 250 characters. So unfortunately, it's not possible to have longer sentences and contents than that. I would probably advise you to either import a PowerPoint slide where you have all of that content if you have longer, if that's content you want to show. And for formulas, we actually have a way to use LaTeX, for example. And I will probably navigate Ostra to give you some insights on how to do that. But LaTeX is possible to put in the questions and so forth, and the content, if that's something you want to do. Before I move on, I feel like I have quite a lot of feedback from today's webinar. So I would love for you to share a little bit about what you've learned. How do you plan on incorporating Mentimeter in your teaching after this session? And again, you'll get access to this afterwards. So please feel free to share with your colleagues. And I will continue to answer questions for 2 more minutes. What new developments are planned for Menti in the future? We have a really nice page that I also would probably ask Ostra to paste in the chat, or I can try and have the time to do it later. But we have it, if you Google on Canny and Mentimeter, you'll be able to find a page where you see our changelog, which is basically our roadmap and whatever new launches that we do to Mentimeter. So the product team continues to update that page as new things are released. But a lot of things are coming, especially in the AI area. Can we group different presentations into folders? Good question. Yes, you can. So there is a folder logic in Mentimeter, so that you can do. And you can also create groups if you want to share templates within different groups as well. So yes, you can. Can I access my material on Menti after quitting a job that had a license? That depends a little bit on the setup that your organization has. If they have signed into SSO, no, you wouldn't be able to access that, I would assume. But it depends a little bit from organization to organization. So I would try and reach out to your administrator of Menti or anyone that's responsible for Menti at your organization if you're curious about this. And I think we may be running out of time. I may have time for one more question. Did you say integration with Google presentation was in progress, or that plan is to only support PowerPoint? Let me get back to you on that, because I actually don't exactly know what the kind of the roadmap for that is. I know that we have a way to kind of work around this, but I don't exactly know what the future plan is for that. So I have to come back on that one actually. And I think we are out of time. Ostra, did you want to say something, or do we just wrap it up? This is my first time hosting a webinar like this.
No, thank you so much, Julia. There were a lot of questions here at the end, and I did not have the chance to answer everything in the chat or send all of the links that Julia was mentioning. So if there's anything that, no, it's okay. If there's anything that you are missing, just feel free to reach out to hello@mentimeter.com with your question. And your question will go to our fantastic support team that will answer as soon as possible. So any issue that you're running into, any feature question, just ask them and you will get your answer.
And I'm just posting the, it's maybe gonna drown within everyone else's answers, but I just posted the roadmap link to the chat that I talked about. That's the last thing I remember that I promised, or I sent to Ostra. So hopefully that helps. Thanks, everyone.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.